with his horse forward. His companions followed him without hesitation. They rode past the graveyard, which didn't even have a fence around it. They passed by a well where two peasant women were cursing at each other, arguing over who would draw water first. And then they were in the western part of the village. They were being eyed warily. Rarely were outsiders seen here, especially ones on horseback, but no one questioned them. The riders found the inn quickly. The building stood out from the rest. It was large, with a red chimney and ornamental doors. The innkeeper, having caught sight of potential lodgers, practically choked on his shaft. His eyes went so wide that Whip began to fear that he had suffered a stroke. Whip had no doubt there would be spare rooms.
We rarely have visitors. We rarely have visitors here,
hurriedly muttered the innkeeper as he pocketed the sovereign he'd received from the shortest of his guests.
Come in, please. Usually people just ride straight through to Alexey Ford. We're out of the way here. Do you wish to eat something? We could get everything ready quickly in no time at all.
How do you even make a living if you have so few guests? I mean,
there hasn't been anyone since mid-spring. We only survive thanks to the lodgers. They come to drink chaff and wine, but only in the evenings. Right now there's no one here. There'll be nothing to bother you. Come in, come in. Thank me lot. Who sent you to my modest hearth? Is there a blacksmith? Is there
a blacksmith in your village? My horse has a limp, said Whip casually.
Of course, old Morgan. Down the road, good sir. But take a right through the square until you get to the edge of the village, right by the woods. You can't miss it.
Shen and Baum exchanged significant glances, and once again climbed into their saddles. Whip and the short one, who answered to the name of Midge, followed their example.
Prepare rooms and supper for us, the eldest of the four said over his shoulder. We'll be back soon.
The innkeeper hastened to assume the benevolent gentleman that everything would be done to the best of his ability, and then he ran off to execute the order. It didn't even enter his head to wonder why all four were going to blacksmith when only one of their horses was lame.
According to the half-wit, he's not far from blacksmith. If he wasn't having us on,
remarked Shen. Whip chuckled. The kid was hoping that the fool had led them astray. There would indeed be excellent confirmation that his commander made a mistake in his dreams. Whip didn't really understand why moles had found it necessary to break up their tired and true threesome with a fourth. Shen was far too green to be able to think. He acted first, and only afterward did he perceive the consequences. He was foolish. It wouldn't be long before he died as a result.
If he was having us on, I'll go back and toss him in the river, replied Whip, trying not to show his annoyance. Everywhere you go, you'll find an idiot who's willing to sell it to people closest to him. They slowly rode along the street, attentively looking around. From under a fence, a dirty, shaggy hound shot out with a high-pitched yipping. It didn't dare run after the horses, but it hurled an invective at the riders until they had disappeared from its sights. Looks like we found it, Midge nodded towards gates. There are the ponies. In point of fact, thin-legged horses with swan's wings were carved on the wooden doors. It was a horse they were searching for. It was large, bright, and built out of pine logs. Well, you see there, Shen, said Whip with a smile. Seems like you should trust people sometimes, including idiots. The young man just twisted up his lips in response. Bowman, stay here. Keep on the horses, ordered the leader of the team. Damn, but what if he slips out through the back? You have such a bad opinion of our friend. Time changes, people. Hey, damn. Leave the crossbow. This last was directed at Shen, who was reaching for the weapon that was hanging off the saddle. Why should I? He asked uncompetently. Whatever. Do as you're told, said Whip in his support of his comrades. We came here to have a chat. Just a chat. A little chat. That thing could ruin everything. You're not afraid, are you, boys? It's none of your business what we're afraid of and what we're not, he edged into conversation. It's your job to keep your mouth shut. Shen had been getting on the shorter man's nerves for a while now. It was highly probable that sooner or later they would have a serious dust-up, and after the fight, one of them would never get up again. Whit would put his money on Midge. He was experienced, cruel, and cunning, and he knew his business well. Only moles knew how many souls that diminutive assassin had sent to Melot's bosom. Both of you shut up, yelled Whip, seeing that the young man was not holding the crossbow as casually as before. You can sort this stupid quarrel when we get back to the city, if you still wish. But right now we have a common cause. There's no time for getting into a knife fight. I'm telling you right now. If you grapple with each other, you'll be booted out of the guild faster than moles can think of your names. Do I make myself clear, you blockheads? Yes, said Midge, taking his hand from his knife. I got carried away. I understand. Agreed Shen easily, handing over the crossbow to Belmont. But let's do what we came here for. I'll be the one to talk. No sudden moves, Shen. That means you. Yeah, I get it. Why are you talking to me like I'm a child? Because chopping cabbage with a sword is one thing, but taking shop with a gardener is something completely different. Having said this, Whip opened the gate and walked into the yard, immediately catching sight of the man he was looking for. Naked to the waist, the man was chopping firewood. Shen had heard about him from his associates, but he turned out to be completely different than he imagined. He thought he'd be sturdy and strong with large pectorals and massive fists. The man who was known as Gray and Alskura did not correspond to the image created in Shen's imagination at all. The man was not burly, and he didn't seem to be a hulking giant capable of decapitating a 5-year-old bull with one swipe. There was nothing threatening about him. He was lank and whirly. He didn't have a single bit of excess fat, nor a bulging muscle on him. Shen had known people like this before. They didn't use force so much as the energy stored in the bands of sinew in their arms. A tough fellow, and probably as durable as 100 Blazobs. The heavy axe was practically flying through the air. Just then the man stopped chopping and saw his guest. He narrowed his gray eyes, and with a casual motion changed his grip on the axe. This gesture did not go unnoticed by the riders. Shen stiffened and slowed his pace. Mitch quickly glanced to his sides. Only a Whip remained calm. He smiled. Only his alert eyes spoke to the fact that the leader was drawn as tight as a loaded crossbow. He continued until he was 5 yards from the master of the house, and then Mollus's messenger stopped. Hello, Gray. The man stayed defiantly silent for a moment, then he replied, Hello, Whip. How are things going? The carpenter grimaced angry. Not bad until today. Whip preferred not to notice the grimace on their host's lips. You've settled down pretty well. The wilderness, the forest, the river, no city noises, and your house is excellent. I can't I can't complain, came the dry answer. What brings you here? Business. Business, of course. Can we talk? That's strange. I thought that was exactly what we're doing. Won't you invite us in? It's messy in there, he replied sullenly. Whip chuckled. 6 years have gone by, and you haven't changed a bit. You still hate having company. 7 to be exact. Hey there, Midge. Hi, Ness. Hi, Ness. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. You disappeared quite cunningly. Their host shrugged their shoulders. Seeing you found me, not quite as cunningly as I'd hoped. I would suppose that bum is waiting outside the gates. Oh, you know him. The man has no love for house calls. Moles sends his regards. Good old Moles, drawled the carpenter. It's hard to escape from him. The master of the house took a step to the right and going round the split wood, and Midge echoed his movement. Taking a step backward, unlike Shen, the diminutive assassin preferred to keep a distance between himself and their unsociable host. For the first time since the beginning of the conversation, Ness smiled knowingly. Then he planted his axe in the stump and dragged his fingers through his flaxen hair. The tension lessened slightly. Just then, a tall young woman appeared on the porch. Her light, almost white hair was held back in a tight braid, and she was wearing a long black skirt and a linen tunic. When she saw the strangers, her dark blue eyes flashed with rage, and her thin lips pressed into a straight line. A shadow ran across her face, and Whip involuntarily reached for his pouch. He had a talisman blessed by a priest of mallet in there. He knew that the amulet would be no help against her, but the foolish superstition proved stronger than his reason. Only at the very last moment did he restrain himself and remove his hand. Now he had to keep an eye on both man and woman. Good day, Lan. She ignored the groaning. She looked at her husband. He looked back at her in return. It seemed as if they were speaking with their eyes. Lan turned around and went back inside. Just before she closed the door, she cast the unwanted guest one last warning glance. Midge let out a relieved breath. He'd been holding his breath the entire time the woman was on the porch. Didn't you used to work as a threesome? Ness asked Whip. That we did, said the leader, wildly, showing just how pleased he was with circumstances that had forced it forth upon him. All right, tell me why you've come, said the host, pulling on his shirt. Mole sends his regards. There was no way I'd believe that. He sent you all this way just for such a greeting. Whip frowned. Not just for that. He sent me to tell you that they're offering 5,000 sorns for your head, and just as much for Lan. The carpenter remained unmoved. Are you really here to aggravate me and tell me that Moles is that hard up? No, we simply want to warn you, in remembrance of your old friendship. That's very kind of him. How did he find me? How should I know? A little birdie whispered in his ear. I'm told what to do, nothing more. The rewards was offered about 2 weeks ago. There was a rumor that you were alive. It's pretty clear that they want to make a trophy out of you, and you must agree that it will be easy to find idiots willing to do anything for that kind of money. Quite so. If there's one thing in this world of ours that will never change, it's idiots. Midge, relax and get your hand off your knife. Sorry, Hobbit. He apologized hastily, and as evidence of his peaceful intentions, even stepped back towards the gates. So, you understand that these whispers of such money have not gone unnoticed. Your life is at risk. What else did my old friend wish to convey? Not much else. It was Josh Three Fingers who named the price. Fire flashed in his gray eyes, and then it instantly faded. Well, thank you for news. Give Moles my thanks. Actually, he'd prefer that you give it to him personally. I've been missing Sarah so much that I would return. It's dangerous here. All the rats know you. Don't flee. We're staying in at the inn. We'll be there for 5 or 6 days. If you change your mind, let us know. An honorary escort, something like that. Take it easy. Without saying a further word, Whip walked to the gates. Midge was the last to exit. True to form, he left, walking behind.